What's up, MetaFam and investors? Let me answer a question. I'm constantly asked a question, why should I mine Bitcoin if I can just invest in it? The other question I get is, why should I mine Bitcoin instead of just investing it? It's the same idea. So let's get into it. Let's get into the business of mining Bitcoin and why mining Bitcoin. Here's your answer. So you don't actually have to watch the rest of this video. The answer is mining Bitcoin is far superior to just investing in Bitcoin. Okay, so we'll start off with an analogy. So you've probably heard of a Bitcoin ATM, which are popping up all over the streets. They look like traditional ATMs, and most people assume that they work like traditional ATMs and how traditional ATMs work as well. But here's the difference. Instead of allowing you to withdraw amounts of cash based on your crypto holdings, these Bitcoin ATMs only allow you to buy crypto with new money. So there's a constraint there. By contrast, I'd like to introduce you to a different type of machine. It's a Bitcoin mining rig. Now, this isn't a Bitcoin mining rig. This is a retail mining rig, but from my previous startup. But a mining rig. This Bitcoin is yours the minute it's produced by this Bitcoin mining rig. You can keep holding your crypto directly, or move it to another wallet, or convert it to something else right away. The best part is the value of the machine itself can soar in price the whole time you're using it. In fact, based on what's happening right now, a relatively small investment in your own Bitcoin ATM could easily hand you hundreds of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin every single month, while the machine itself might end up tripling in value. It's kind of like a lot like dollar cost averaging. The basic idea is putting a fixed amount of money into an investment at regular intervals. In doing so, you're buying more of that investment at lower prices and less at higher prices. Then over long periods of time, that growing stake can become more and more valuable. Dollar cost averaging, something that I've talked about on my YouTube channel for so long, is especially good with volatile assets like cryptocurrency. And while Bitcoin mining isn't exactly the same thing, it works in a very similar way. In fact, it's even better in some ways. Say, for example, you have $10,000 to invest in Bitcoin right now. Let's walk through three scenarios. In the first scenario, you just invest the full amount in one day. With prices at $20,000, you end up with essentially half a Bitcoin. That's great if Bitcoin is near the bottom, but bad if it drops further and stays down for a while. In the second scenario, you invest $1,000 into Bitcoin each of the next 10 months. This is true dollar cost averaging. If Bitcoin's price rises and falls over the next 10 months, you'll be buying more of it when prices are low and less of it when prices are high. And given Bitcoin's big price swings, there's a good chance you'll actually end up with more Bitcoin overall at the end of 10 months than if you just bought it all at once. If it happens to take off like a rocket, though, you may miss out on a little bit of the upside. So that's the downside to scenario number two. The third scenario is you use the $10,000 to buy a good Bitcoin mining rig and pay for the electricity needed to run it. At current prices, you could easily buy a brand new 100 terahash machine and have enough money to pay for 3 years worth of electricity and upkeep. Given current difficulty rates and other factors, you may expect your machine to produce about $9 worth of Bitcoin every day. This has been recorded on Thursday, August 18th. Obviously, that fluctuates. But multiply that out over 3 years, and you're looking at mining about $9,855 worth of Bitcoin. So, you end up with the same amount of Bitcoin as you would have bought in the first scenario, but your machine can keep producing more Bitcoin past that, maybe for many years past that. In addition, if prices fluctuate, you'll benefit as if you were dollar cost averaging, and if they start rising steadily, you'll be generating more and more revenue from the same overall investment. So, you've heard about all these Bitcoin mining companies capitulating and selling Bitcoin and going out of business. So what's that all about? Well, let's talk about what you actually need to start when it comes to mining Bitcoin. You technically only really need three things to mine Bitcoin. Number one, a fast, efficient machine running on the right software. Number two, specialized care and maintenance. And number three, cheap electricity. Seems easy, right? Well, it can be. In fact, your rig can be set up, monitored, and run from your home. Trust me, I would know. I've been doing this for years. But there also are a few drawbacks. For starters, those fast, efficient machines generate a lot of heat and noise. There are definitely ways to reduce or contain those byproducts of this process, but they might make home mining rigs less appealing to you, and you're going to be spending a lot of time on Discord and Reddit trying to figure out how to home brew the right systems. And if your system overheats, it could break down. Then you'd be responsible for troubleshooting and repairing your setup. If you're not familiar with computer repair, that could be a huge sticking point. In addition, energy costs might be unattractively high depending on where you live. And most Bitcoin mining rigs require anywhere from 220 to 240 volt lines, which could necessitate the need for an electrician and other upfront installation costs, not to mention other maintenance or upkeep issues that could arise. For example, having to buy an entirely new breaker. Just learnings. Fortunately, there are now several companies that remove all these barriers in one fell swoop. There are companies out there with the ability for you to learn how to Bitcoin mine and earn Bitcoin, and is accessible through essentially hosting companies. Under some of these hosting options that you can find online for Bitcoin miners, essentially you buy a machine and the company places that machine with a contracted hosting facility. What you end up doing is you just pay for the machine and the monthly hosting charge, and the latter includes your machine energy costs, 24/7 security, and monitoring to make sure that your rig stays up to date and running. Deals and pricing change frequently with these different hosting options, but I've been watching multiple sites and have regularly seen that Antminer S19 Pro 100s, for example, are around, dipping under $4,000 now on August 18th, and several recent offerings in other places are showing hosting costs that are only about $166, or about $150 to $160, $170 per month. So how does this pencil out in the real world? Well, you can see a table right here that shows recent data from Hashrate Index. It indicates how much daily revenue many higher-end machines are generating right now, and how much above that money is profit above typical electricity costs. Now, I've been talking about Antminer S19 Pro machines, so let's stick with that. So given the type of machine and the Bitcoin price of $20,000 to $25,000, you may produce about $9 to $10 a day in revenue. With $150 or $170 in monthly hosting costs, that would amount to about $3, $4 a day above your operating costs. At $116 a month in profits, it would take you about 34 months to break even from the cost of your machine. From there, you may have another couple of years at the same daily profits, free and clear. Much depends on how long your machines stay functional, of course. Many people cite a 5-year lifespan for high-quality machines operated correctly in proper environmental conditions, and this means that you could easily double your investment without factoring in any appreciation in Bitcoin or the machine itself. Now, remember, you can always sell the machine if you just want to get out of the game. Meanwhile, should Bitcoin simply return to its previous high from earlier last year, you could quickly go from making $3 to $4 a day in profits to making 10 times that amount. This is precisely why the value of your machine would also rise sharply, and that's why buying lots of machines like we do when the market's depressed is how you accumulate even more Bitcoin as the bull run goes back up. We've done this twice now by buying machines and Bitcoin miners at the bottom of the market. And if you want to cash out at any point, these hosting companies also allow you to buy or sell your hosted machines on secondary exchanges quickly and easily. Of course, although many of these hosting companies are largely focused on retail customers, it's not the only choice to consider. There are other companies that are reputable that provide both machines and home delivery and hosted bundles. So you can go look out there. There are a couple companies out there. One of them is Compass Mining that comes to top of my head. Another is Wadham, I believe, that does this as well. And so there's lots of options out there to buy miners and have them hosted outside of your home, and you can still make significant money over the long term. People don't see this. All they see is the news. All they see is, hey, things are blowing up and Bitcoin miners are exploding. Well, if you run the math and you have good contracts in place, and you have a deep understanding of the long-term value of accumulating Bitcoin, then I think we've pretty much said everything we need to say. A Bitcoin miner will earn you the cost of the miner back and an extra couple years of earning. If you're going to be building a business on top of this, then you're going to need to understand float, right? You're going to need to understand having enough runway to support the periods in which Bitcoin is low and you're not cashing out your Bitcoin to pay for operations. But even at a retail level, most of you guys are retail. Even at a retail level, it is still a good idea to dip your toe into the mining game, whether it's you mine at home, which I highly recommend, or you mine with larger machines using hosted services. Either way, you're supporting the blockchain, you're getting rewarded for doing so, and in the long term, it's a forcing mechanism for you to learn more about the cryptocurrency world, the Bitcoin network, why it's so important, and you get to earn that Bitcoin. And as Bitcoin continues to go up, that Bitcoin will be worth even more. So, TLDR, should I invest in Bitcoin or should I buy a Bitcoin mining rig? The answer is you should probably do both. But you've already bought Bitcoin, haven't you? So maybe it's time to support the blockchain and earn even more Bitcoin over a longer extended period of time. Hope this was helpful, guys.